Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. I'm a little late on this video, to be honest, but I wanted to do a part 2 video of some of the Comic Link auctions that have just recently ended in the 9.8. And got a little bit lucky waiting, I think. About half of these are from last week, but I noticed in the last day or two a few 9.8s ending on Comic Link. So I decided to throw those prices in here. So I got 29.8 prices to analyze. So yeah, let's get right into it. First one, I think a book that should be on your short list if you're into, investing in kind of 1980s, 1990s comics like me. It's New Mutants 98 in a CGC 9.8. First appearance of Deadpool. Seeing this one sell. It sold last night too on Comic Link for $1,711 in a CGC 9.8 white pages in a direct edition. I think, all things considered, that's probably a price target to aim for. I think it's a good time for this one right now. $1,711, this one's selling for. Let's call it about a year ago, I think now. There were some pretty strong rumors like there's going to be a new Deadpool MCU movie, and this one heated up at that time. I think it was selling for like $2,300, maybe even a few went for $2,500. So cooling down a little bit. I think the market's cooling down a little bit as well. That's a theme we'll kind of go throughout the video. But all things considered, $1,700, big key issue in the 90s. First appearance of Deadpool, one that's got a good long-term trajectory, I think. I think $1,700 in the direct edition. 9.8 white pages. Looking really good, nice centering colors. There's a lot of these, so you can be a little picky on the centering and colors. An early 90s book, but I think $1,700 is a price target to aim for a New Mutants 98 in a direct edition right now. So cool to see one of those sell. Next one here, just a fantastic one to consider for investment, I think. Yeah, certainly an investment grade book. DC Comics presents number 26. First appearance of the new Teen Titans. So you got Raven, Starfire, and Cyborg. Yeah, a lot of really popular new Teen Titans. From the Teen Titans Go series, these characters really took off. So this is one I've really considered in the past. So a direct edition sold in the 9.8 for $2,500. I gotta say, it looked basically perfect. The colors were perfect. The centering was perfect. But interesting, $2,500. I think, despite it looking really awesome in a 9.8, I think is a bit of an overpay because I was watching as this one was on Comic Link. There was one on eBay. I was really kind of close to pulling the trigger, but I'm maybe just not willing to spend a lot of money right now. I'm not really in that super buying mode, but there was a newsstand edition of this one. DC Comics presents 26, CGC 9.8 white pages, looking really awesome. It sold for $1,699 on eBay in the newsstand edition. So I think on Comic Link, this direct edition selling for $2,500. Gonna go down as a bit of an overpay, although it was a really nice looking 9.8. I gotta say that's probably why it did end up going for so much. But the one on eBay, the newsstand one, was looking really awesome too. So certainly I would try to aim closer to $1,699 for DC Comics Presents 26. But this is one where I think the newer generation, they're really into that Teen Titans Go series. And this is basically the first appearance of all the Teen Titans Go Teen Titans. So I think this one's got a really good long-term trajectory. It's a great one to consider, a DC book. So yeah, DC Comics Presents 26. In a direct 9.8 white pages selling for $2,500 on eBay at the same time. One sold for $1,699 in a newsstand. Probably a more motivated seller on that one, but you kind of get the price range of them there. And yeah, that's a really good book to consider. Okay, next one here. Kanan, The Last Padawan, number 6. This is basically first full appearance of Sabine Wren and Ezra Bridger. You get a really cool cover. In Kanan 1, you kind of get a bit of a cameo appearance of all these characters, but first full appearance in number 6. This book's kind of holding its value, too. There's, not too many of them in the 9.8 compared to, say, a Darth Vader 3 or something like that. So this is kind of hanging in there. One selling on these batch of Comic Link auctions for $452. Kanan, The Last Padawan, number 6. You can maybe aim a little closer to $400 on that one, but yeah, if Sabine Wren comes out in one of these series, the Star Wars series that are coming out, this one's probably got a little more upside. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you might want to consider Kanan, The Last Padawan, number 6 in a 9.8, selling for $452. Next one's a really great key that's definitely investable, I think. It's Iron Man number 118. First appearance of Jim Rhodes overall. I've considered this one as just, I think, a really cool one. Certainly, you could think like if if Robert Downey Jr.'s time is coming up as Iron Man, maybe Jim Rhodes plays a bigger part, and certainly Riri Williams is going to play a bigger part. But yeah, this one I always thought had some potential. And Iron Man 118 in a 9.8 white page is selling for $1,026 in these Comic Link auctions. So, about a year ago, I was really considering this one. I remember following an auction. I think it ended in sort of 500 to 600 range. So this is one even, despite comic books cooling off, I think in general, still really holding its value. And yeah, it is a pretty old key, and in the 9.8, a great collector item, I think. So Iron Man 118, first Jim Rhodes for $1,026. Cool to see one of those sell. Speaking of Riri Williams, Invincible Iron Man number 9 in a first print. Saw one sell for $1,000 even in these Comic Link auctions. And, I think people are looking ahead a little bit more to Riri being in some of these MCU movies, but on eBay, basically during the same time here, maybe about a week or two ago, I saw one sell for $829 and $777.69. So you could probably do a little bit better on an Invincible Iron Man number 9. I like that first print though, cool cover, and selling for $1,000 on Comic Link. Maybe you want to aim closer to $777 that had just sold recently. Okay, next one here, a pretty cool one, under $100 that I'll decide to share here. It's Incredible Hulk 474. This is the last issue of Incredible Hulk in the 90s. I do like this kind of era of Incredible Hulk in the 90s, and the last issue is kind of a cool key issue to get, and under $100 here, selling for $70. I think that's a really cool, affordable one to think about, especially if you're a Hulk fan. Okay, next one. Saw a Vengeance of Bane special, number 1. So, Batman, Vengeance of Bane special, first appearance and origin of Bane, selling for $573. Yeah, there's been a few going right around this price, $575, let's call it, for Vengeance of Bane. I think that, yeah, it's totally worth it. Big first appearance of a big Batman villain for $575, I think it is a good value right now. Next one I think is a really good value too. Yeah, it's an Incredible Hulk number 234 in a 9.8. This one is first appearance of Quasar. And there was some rumors and teases that maybe, I think it was the director of Guardians of the Galaxy in Volume 3, maybe Quasar is going to be in Volume 3. Quasar is sort of a part of the team in Annihilation Conquest, number 6, when the first new Guardians of the Galaxy team gets together. So I think, yeah, there could be a little more upside for this one, and it's just a great kind of old 9.8, great collector item to get too. Selling for $480. Incredible Hulk 234. First Quasar for $480. Looking really cool in the 9.8 white pages. I think that's a great value, to be honest. Yeah, that's tempting for me. Yeah, I really like Incredible Hulk books in this era in the 9.8. And I think $480 is kind of a price target to aim for. I kind of want this one. I just think it's a good value and kind of fits in well with my Guardians of the Galaxy keys that I already have. Next one's a really cool one that is just absolutely been trending up nicely. Ghost Rider version 2, number 1. First appearance of Danny Ketch, the new Ghost Rider at the time. Selling for $452. Yeah, this one, I've been really surprised over the last year or two. Literally, 2 years ago, let's call it. This one was like $100, $125. Just one of kind of those cool, memorable 90s keys that were really cheap in a 9.8. It's picked up some steam, absolutely. $452, I think. In the last 6 months, I've sort of saw this one go from kind of $350 to $400. So this one is holding its value and has come a long way, but it is a cool one. So maybe you aim a little closer to $400 on a Ghost Rider version 2, number 1, in a 9.8 white pages. Okay, next one. A Detective Comics 880 classic Jock Joker cover. This one has always been pretty well collected. I'm on the record as not being the biggest fan of Jock or this cover, to be honest. Although in the 9.8, it does have a really good 9.8 ratio, so I can understand kind of the price. It's a tough one in the 9.8. Selling for $500. Yeah, so pretty much over the last year, 2 or 3, since I've been collecting 9.8s, this one has sold in that sort of 400 to 500 range, so it's kind of holding in there. Detective Comics 880 going for $500 even. Okay, next one. a pretty stiff price on this next one here. Detective Comics 576. This is a McFarlane Batman cover with Pablo Marcos on the cover art here. This predates Batman 423, selling for, oh, I'm going to get rid of that, sorry. Yes, I want to decline. Detective Comics 880, Detective Comics 576 McFarlane Batman cover selling for $363. That's seeming like pretty expensive. I think this one, you know, certainly for the last year, I thought it was like $175 to $200. Occasionally, an auction would pop up on eBay and it would go for even like under $150. But this one was looking really nice, I would say. The colors were really nice, good centering on it. Occasionally, you'll see like the faded colors with a kind of orangey cover rather than a reddish cover, and that will affect the price in a 9.8. So this one was looking pretty cool. $363 though. Maybe this one's doing a little bit of catch-up to Batman 423. You know, Batman 423 has been on fire for the past 2 years, really trending up well in a 9.8. So maybe the price is a little bit too high. You have McFarlane fans going after this one. And yeah, maybe this one was like $150, but maybe it's going to be over $300. That'll be one to keep an eye on for sure. Okay, next one here. Amazing Spider-Man number 300 in a 9.8. Direct edition, selling for $4,855. Yeah, under $5,000 for an Amazing Spider-Man 300 9.8 white pages in a direct. Yeah, this is getting into a buying territory. Certainly, you know, when the Let There Be Carnage trailer came out and then the Venom movie, I said, you probably want to be patient on a lot of these symbiote books and black costume books. They're cooling off now, so I think you can really think about buying actually right now anywhere for a really good looking Amazing Spider-Man 300 direct edition in a 9.8. Under $5,000, I think, is a decent price for pretty much one of the best 9.8s in the 1980s to get. Yeah, just like a super low 9.8 ratio on that. It's a really tough 9.8, even though it's one of the most popular 9.8s in the 1980s. So under 5,000, I think, is getting tempting. Certainly, if I didn't have two of them in the 9.8, it would, you know, certainly a better spot right now than during peak Venom 2 movie when the first Venom 2 came out. A few went, one was 6,100 and one went for 6,500. So it gives you an idea of how this one's cooling off just about a month later. Okay, next one is just a fantastic investment grade book. It's Transformers #1 in a first print, 9.8, selling for $1,856. This one, I think, is getting into that territory where you can absolutely buy one now under $2,000. This one definitely sailed over $2,000 12 months ago. Seemed like the comic book market was a lot hotter. And a few of these selling right in that $2,500 range. I think even at a moment there, they were pushing $3,000. And the newsstands were like going for ridiculous amounts of money. So, Transformers #1, 9.8 in the first print, dipping below 2,000. I think 1,856 is pretty much a price target to aim for Transformers #1. First Autobots and Decepticons origin and first appearance. So just a big key issue that you probably want to target if you're investing in 1980s books for sure. I got one in a CBCS 9.8 for Transformers #1 first print. All right, next one here. Uncanny X-Men #129. First appearance of Kitty Pryde, Sebastian Shaw, and Emma Frost in this one. Probably one of the best covers of this era, too. The John Byrne, Terry Austin Uncanny X-Men run is just so awesome. This one in a direct edition, selling for $3,300. That seems really expensive. This is one of the tougher 9.8s of this generation, so it's always been very expensive. But even this one's cooling off a little bit. I think closer to $3,000 for an X-Men 129 in a 9.8 is, kind of a price target to aim for. Again, this is a really tough, expensive, serious one, but in a 9.8. But closer to 3,000. This one was over 4,000, sort of, when everything was heating up. Probably about a year ago now, to be honest. So cooling down a little bit, albeit just a great investment grade book, X-Men 129. A Star Wars Heir to the Empire #1 in a 9.8. Sold for $1,210. I think this is probably one of the better books to buy right now. All signs kind of pointing that Thrawn's going to be in a lot of Star Wars content, shows and movies, in the next 3 to 5 years, let's call it. This one cooling down a little bit. Yeah, this one was definitely like $1,700 for a bit. cooling down to 1,200. I think right now is kind of the time to buy an Heir to the Empire if you don't have one. And I was very tempted on one about a month ago. There's one that popped up in Canada right around, I think it was 1,300 or best offer. I probably could have got it done for around this price, but maybe not in the most buying mood right now. But that's absolutely one that I think has a bright future. And you know, buy it on a cool down now. Thrawn comes out looking awesome in all these Star Wars movies in the next 3 years. I think you know, 1,200 will probably be near lower to the bottom once this one starts to trend up again. So yeah, Heir to the Empire 1 is just one to consider for sure. And it's one of those dark horse comic books from the 90s, so a lot less printed, I think, than a normal kind of 90s book, and there's not too many in the 9.8, so it's a great collector item as well. Next one here, Uncanny X-Men 221. I think this one's cooling down a bit. Direct edition selling for $362. Yeah, I think these were nicking around that $500 area, maybe even over $500 about a year ago when things were really heating up. 221, it's never been the most tough one in the 9.8. There's a lot of 9.8s out there. It's got a pretty high 9.8 ratio for kind of a mid to late 80s book. So it was always one that probably could cool down a little bit, and it looks like it is. $362 though. Mr. Sinister's likely, you know, there were some rumors that he's going to be the villain in the next MCU movies. If that happens, I think this 362 is going to be a great entry point. So yeah, I think that's a price target to aim for Uncanny X-Men 221. First, Mr. Sinister in a direct edition, 9.8 white pages. So I saw a few, two Uncanny X-Men 266s sell. Both direct editions, both in new cases with a really nice centering as well. I like to be a little picky on the centering on this one. It kind of annoys me when there's a miswrap on this one, because you got like Andy Kubert's signature along the spine. So I just like a nice centering on this one. But these ones were looking really cool, and I think a target to aim for here. 837 one sold for, and 750 another one sold for. So this was one, certainly X-Men in the past 6 to 12 months, there was a little hotter, there were a lot of rumors. And this one was like 1,100, you know, for quite a while there, actually. I think $750 one selling for in a 9.8 is kind of, you want to think about getting in there now at around $750 if you don't have a 266 in the 9.8. I personally do not. It's one I love, one I loved as a kid, and I think around $750 I might try to get one done on a great looking one if I can pull that off in the next 6 to 12 months. So yeah, some of these classic X-Men books cooling off a bit and getting into some buying territory, I think. The next one's a classic, absolutely. Uncanny X-Men number 141, Days of Future Past number 1, getting into the end of that John Byrne era. Just such a classic book and cover, and Days of Future Past, maybe the most popular storyline of X-Men ever, maybe. This one in a direct edition selling for $810. This one's holding its value pretty good. You know, I've saw these kind of knocking the $1,000 level, and then a newsstand will sell every now and then, and it's like $1,500, and I'm always kind of surprised at some of the newsstand prices, but this one kind of hanging in there, $810. Such a classic one. That's probably a pretty decent price for an Uncanny X-Men 141 in a 9.8 white pages. Looking pretty awesome. $810. Next one was a really cool one that I personally did not know about until seeing in this auction. It's The Matrix comic book preview. This one was actually like recalled because of mature content or something like that. So probably going to be pretty low printed, tough to find in the 9.8. It sold for $520. I think, yeah, this is the one to get if you're a Matrix fan. So it's called The Matrix comic book preview with no number, selling for $520 in a 9.8. If you're a Matrix fan, and this one seems to be really tough to find, I should have looked on the census this morning, actually, to see how many 9.8s there are. I doubt there's very many. I think that's a pretty awesome value if you're the biggest Matrix fan, for sure. $520 for that one. Interesting, the next one, maybe an idea of, you know, the market cooling down here, and certainly most of these books are on the pullback. Spawn number 50, selling for $121. We had documented one about a month or two ago that went for $265 or something like that. That really surprised me. I think that was an overpay. You know, the fair value sort of, I think, is about $200 for this one recently, like let's call in the last 6 months. This one's selling for $121. I think some of these sort of secondary key issues that are cool, but they are kind of secondary, like you probably definitely want to Spawn number 1 over this for sure. Spawn number 1 in the newsstand for sure is the one I really like. Some of these secondary key issues are prone to a pullback when the market cools down because, yeah, you know, the collectors are really going to gravitate to the main key issues in a cooling down market, and some of these secondary ones are, you know, pretty tough to heat up. But around 121, I do like this one. That's a really good price. So yeah, I think that's a price target to aim for, absolutely, on a Spawn 50. And again, like a month ago, one sold for $265. So I think 121 is an absolute steal for whoever bought that one. Next one was a cool one to see sell. This book's certainly hot. The She-Hulk movie coming out. Savage She-Hulk, number 1, selling for $1,200. This book definitely goes in that category of one I've been absolutely wrong about. You know, moving into that She-Hulk movie, I should have saw that it'll probably trend up, or a show or whatever it is. I should have saw that this one would trend up nicely because this one was about $500 a year and a half ago. I kind of wanted to consider it, but in the 9.8, there's a lot of these for a 1980. This is a 1980 book. There's a lot of them in a 9.8. For a 1980 book, it didn't strike me as a very tough 9.8 at all. Not one to pay up for. But it still trended up nice, and the show's looking really cool. So I could see this one. You know, I can understand this price. I would be patient on this one. 1,200 right now. I think a year or two after this show, unless She-Hulk really gets a multi-year push in the MCU, this one will be back down under $1,000. And you know, you might want to be really patient on this one and wait for like $750 to $800 in a year or so once the show's over, kind of thing. Probably not the time to just dive in there and get a Savage She-Hulk number 1, unless you're looking to like flip it over the short term, which I don't really recommend. So, okay, next one here is one I'm keeping an eye on, and it's a Sandman number 1 in a CGC 9.8. I saw some of the teasers for like the Sandman Netflix show that eventually will be coming. It looks pretty cool, like really creepy, awesome, kind of cool vibe I was getting from the Sandman Netflix show. So this is kind of one I've had my eye on. Maybe if I was in more of a buying mood, I would kind of get out there and try to get this one for a good value. But one sold for $1,150. And they were sort of selling, I think, for like $800 to $900. And then some of those teasers for the Netflix show came out, so maybe it's heated up a little bit more. But there's probably still some more upside. I think the Sandman show is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, this is a decently tough one in a 9.8. I think it's a 1989 book. Yeah, all things considered, probably $1,150 is a decent price for a Sandman number 1 in a 9.8 white pages. Moon Knight number 1 had sold. Origin of Moon Knight, and I'm looking forward to the Moon Knight show, which looks pretty awesome too. This one, you know, it's been pretty hot. It sold for $775. I do remember like 2 years ago, this one was like $225. So coming a long way, $775. Hopefully the Moon Knight show is just awesome. This one keeps trending up. Maybe they do a kind of a multi-year push with Moon Knight as well. But there seems to be a little bit of hype. It's going to be hard to kind of get a deal on this one right now. But $775, I think all things considered, is a decent price. I've saw them go for more than this. And yeah, this one's just really trended up nicely, certainly in the past 2 to 3 years. Okay, next one here. One I do have. An Incredible Hulk 340. In a CGC 9.8 white pages. Yeah, one of my favorites as a McFarlane fan. I got 4 of these in the 9.8. It was, you know, one I bought like 3 years ago, all of them for around $400. It's one that, it's got a good 9.8 ratio for a late 80s book, so it's a pretty tough one to find in a 9.8 given its popularity and just classic McFarlane, that a cover I've loved since I was a kid. Selling for $1,131 on these Comic Link auctions. This one really pulling back. This one, for quite a while there, was kind of $1,700, $1,800, and a few had sold for like $2,000. Even at that point, I was like, you got to be patient on this one. I don't think it's worth $2,000. It is kind of a non-key issue, to be honest. Just McFarlane fans really loving this one. Closer to $1,000 though, making a little more sense. It does look really good on the census for a late 80s book. Not quite as good as like Amazing Spider-Man 300. That's why it's not like $5,000, but still a pretty tough one when you kind of consider all late 80s 9.8s. And right around 1,000, maybe this one, you know, in the next 6 to 12 months dips below 1,000. I think it's a great value, sort of around that $900 to $1,000 if you're in the market for Incredible Hulk 340. And the last one here a Marvel Comics Presents number 72, Origin of Wolverine in a 9.8, selling for $500. Yeah, this one, for quite a while there, it stayed cheap for a really long time. I remember, it's got to be about 2 years ago now, I lost out on an auction, and one sold for like $105, and I think I bid like $99. So this was one where conceivably like 2-3 years ago, you could get it for less than $100, I remembered. And it always was a screaming value at that time, but I didn't really like the cover on this one. I like Marvel Comics Presents 79 for Barry Windsor Smith covers out of this whole run. Otherwise, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Barry Windsor Smith's art. And yeah, this cover just doesn't really do it for me. But $500 now, from $100 to $500, and really seems like it's holding its value. And it is the origin of Wolverine, so, you know, despite me not liking the cover, there's a lot of great things about Marvel Comics Presents 72, $500. Maybe you aim a little closer to 400 on that one, but yeah, if you're a Wolverine fan, you want that origin of Wolverine, absolutely. And maybe if you're looking for a cooler cover, think about Marvel Comics Presents 79. All right. That's all 25 of them. Yeah, I got through them pretty quick there. I'll have a list in the description below of the issues and the prices. But yeah, I think, you know, if you're buying all these 9.8s, one of the best things you can do is just keep an eye on these current sales, know what the prices are for some of them. So if you're going out to buy, there's always someone on eBay or whatever platform it is trying to get, you know, 20, 30, 50% more than the fair value. So if you know the fair values, you're way less likely to overpay. And that's kind of what these videos are all about. And I think someone mentioned like, oh, you should make videos like telling us when they're on Comic Link so we could buy them. Well, to be honest, like all these are just, you know, bread and butter kind of key issues most of the time. So if you search Comic Link and eBay pretty diligently, like almost one of these will pop up almost every month on Comic Link. So there's no need for me to be like, it's on Comic Link now. Like, you know, you got to rush out to get it. Like, no, just be patient. A lot of these are going to pop up on eBay and Comic Link if you're searching. So there's always time to purchase these ones. Although, you know, maybe if you want a certain book, you can't just get out there right now and buy it. But that's kind of a part of the thrill of the hunt of 9.8 collecting.